You think the end of the world looks like an action movie. You imagine a glorious last stand, guns blazing, adrenaline pumping. You are wrong. The end of the world is quiet. It smells like stagnant water and unwashed bodies. It sounds like a low battery smoke detector chirping in an empty house. Most people prepare for the movie version. They buy tactical vests and forget to buy water filters. They stock up on ammunition, but don't know how to treat a simple infection. When the lights go out and don't come back on, the people who survive aren't the ones with the most gear. They are the ones with the right software running in their heads. Today, we are running a simulation. We are going to walk through 10 specific high-stakes scenarios, from drone swarms to bioweapons, to test if you actually have the skills to make it, or if you're just another loot drop for the person who does. The gap between owning a tool and knowing how to use it is where you die. A medkit you haven't opened is just a heavy brick. A map you can't read is just kindling. We are going to close that gap. I'm going to give you 10 core competencies that act as force multipliers. We aren't just listing them, we are applying them to the worst days of your life. If you want to survive the collapse, you need to treat this briefing like your life depends on it. Because, statistically speaking, one day it will. Secure your spot in the survival minority right now by paying attention. Scenario 1. Situational awareness. You are in a crowded transit hub. It's rush hour. Thousands of commuters are pushing through the turnstiles. The air smells like ozone and burnt coffee. You are looking at your phone, scrolling through a feed, just like everyone else. Suddenly, the ambient noise changes. It isn't a gunshot, it's a mechanical hum. A swarm of autonomous delivery drones, hacked by a terror cell, drops from the ceiling vents. They aren't delivering packages. They are scanning for thermal signatures and detonating small anti-personnel charges. The crowd doesn't react instantly. There is a 3-second delay where everyone just stares, their brains refusing to process the anomaly. That 3-second pause is the difference between the living and the dead. Here is what 90% of the people in that station do. They freeze. It is called normalcy bias. Their brains are frantically trying to categorize the buzzing and the explosions as something safe. Fireworks, a prank, a movie shoot. When they finally accept the danger, they herd. They run where everyone else runs. They trample each other trying to get to the main escalators, creating a fatal bottleneck. They are reacting to the noise, not the threat. They are blind, panicked cattle. And the drones simply hover over the choke point and finish the job. If you are waiting for perfect clarity before you move, you are already a casualty. True situational awareness is about breaking the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act faster than the threat. In a public space, you should already know your exits before the event starts. You aren't paranoid, you are prepared. You are constantly running a background process that asks, if things go bad right now, where is my cover? Where is the hard wall? When the hum starts, you don't look at the drones, you look for the density gaps in the crowd. You move perpendicular to the stampede. You prioritize cover that stops fragmentation, concrete pillars, engine blocks, over concealment that just hides you. You act on incomplete information because a 70% plan executed immediately is better than a perfect plan executed when you're dead. But here is the complication. The drones aren't just exploding, they are creating a perimeter. They have blocked the main exits. The herd is trapped. Your situational awareness needs to shift from escape to fight or hide. You notice the service corridor behind the kiosk that everyone else ignores because it says authorized personnel only. In an apocalypse, you are authorized. You need to read the environment, not just the signs. You need to distinguish between the sound of a drone seeking a target and one that is idling. Your ears are your radar. If you can't filter the signal from the noise, you will walk right into the kill zone. Scenario 2. Medical proficiency. You made it out of the city, but the highways are a parking lot. A solar flare has knocked out the traffic grids, and panic has caused a massive pile-up. You are walking past a sedan that has been crushed by a jackknifed rig. There is steam hissing, the smell of copper and gasoline. A driver is pulled out of the wreckage, screaming, clutching his leg. Bright red blood is spurting, not flowing, spurting, in a rhythmic jet onto the asphalt. The people around him are useless. One is filming with a dead phone. Another is trying to put a dirty t-shirt over the wound without applying pressure. The clock is ticking. You have 3 minutes before he bleeds out. The common reaction here is frantic, uncoordinated empathy. People try to comfort the victim. They offer water. They try to move him. All of this is wrong. Moving him could sever a spinal cord. Giving him water could complicate surgery later, assuming there is a hospital, which there isn't. The biggest failure is the bystander effect. Everyone waiting for someone else to be the doctor. But in a collapse, 911 isn't coming. The ambulance is stuck 5 miles back. If you don't step in with confidence and competence, that man is just dead meat on the road. Empathy without skill is cruelty. You need the skills to stop massive hemorrhage. This is the highest leverage skill in your arsenal. You need to carry a tourniquet, and you need to know how to crank it until the screaming stops. It will hurt him. Do it anyway. High and tight. If you don't have a cat tourniquet, you need to know how to improvise with a belt and a rigid stick, not a shoelace, which cuts the skin. After the bleeding is controlled, you check the airway. Is he breathing? Is he in shock? You elevate the feet, you keep him warm. Shock kills just as effectively as the bullet or the crash. You become the trauma surgeon of the asphalt. This isn't about band-aids, it's about plumbing. Plug the holes, keep the pump running. The complication is infection. In a grid-down world, that open fracture isn't just a broken bone, it's a bacterial gateway. There are no antibiotics at the pharmacy because the pharmacy has been looted. 3 days from now, that driver you saved is going to spike a fever. Gangrene sets in. Do you know how to clean a wound with boiled water and improvised antiseptics? Do you know the signs of sepsis? Basic medicine means knowing when to fight for a life and when to isolate the sick to protect the group. It means understanding that hygiene, washing your hands before you touch that wound, is a weapon as powerful as a rifle. Scenario 3. Water. It has been 2 weeks since the cyber attack took down the regional pumping stations. The taps hissed dry on day 2. The toilet tanks are empty. You are in the suburbs. The sun is beating down, 90 degrees in the shade. Your mouth feels like it's full of cotton. You find a creek running behind a deserted strip mall. It looks clear. It's moving over rocks. It looks like the pictures on a bottled water label. Your thirst is a primal animal screaming at you to drink. But upstream, a chemical plant's containment tanks have failed without power, and a bloated deer carcass is rotting in the shallows just around the bend. Desperation makes you stupid. People see clear water and assume it's safe. They cup their hands and drink. 12 hours later, they are vomiting up the last of their hydration. Dysentery and cholera are the historical mass killers of humanity, and they are waiting to make a comeback. Others try to ration by not drinking at all, hoarding their last litre while they exert themselves in the heat. This leads to heat stroke and poor decision making. You cannot train your body to live without water. That is a myth that leaves corpses. If you don't treat water sourcing as a scientific process, you are committing suicide by sipping. You need a multi-stage filtration mindset. Boiling is the gold standard. A rolling boil for 1 minute kills the biology. But boiling uses fuel, and fuel is precious. So you need a filter, something like a Sawyer or a life straw, to remove the bacteria and protozoa. But here is the physics. Filters do not remove chemicals or viruses. If you are near agricultural runoff or industrial zones, that filter is just a strainer. You need activated charcoal to absorb the toxins. You need to know how to build a slow sand filter with a bucket, gravel, sand, and charcoal from your fire. You need to understand that clear water can still be poison, and muddy water, if treated right, can save your life. The complication is silence. You are hiding. Boiling water creates smoke and smell. A fire is a beacon that says someone is alive here. If you are evading patrols or looters, you cannot light a fire. Now you are reliant on chemical purification, bleach or iodine tablets. Do you know the ratio? 2 drops of regular bleach per litre. Wait 30 minutes. If the water is cold or cloudy, double the time. If you get this math wrong, you burn your esophagus or you don't kill the Giardia. You have to manage your water logistics tactically. Sourcing water at night, treating it chemically in concealment, and moving on before sunrise. Scenario 4. Shelter and temperature. The grid didn't just fail, it failed in January during a polar vortex. The temperature outside is 20 below zero. The wind howl is deafening. Inside your apartment, the temperature is dropping 3 degrees every hour. The windows are icing over on the inside. You can see your breath in the living room. The dry wall is cold to the touch. You are wearing 2 coats, but the chill is seeping into your bones, making your fingers clumsy and your thoughts slow. Hypothermia isn't dramatic. It's a slow drift into sleep that you don't wake up from. The amateur mistake is trying to heat the whole house. People burn furniture in the fireplace, sending 80% of the heat up the chimney while the draft pulls more cold air in through the cracks. They use propane camping stoves indoors without ventilation and die of carbon monoxide poisoning before they freeze. They run around trying to stay active and sweat into their base layers. Once that sweat cools, it becomes a layer of ice against the skin. Wet is dead. Trying to maintain your pre-disaster comfort level is a fatal error in energy physics. The solution is the microclimate. You abandon the rest of the house. You pick one small interior room. You pitch a tent inside that room, or you build a fort out of mattresses and blankets. You insulate the human body, not the architecture. You pile on the layers, but you regulate them to avoid sweating. You use mylar blankets to reflect body heat back into the core. If you have to sleep, you sleep huddled together. You become a heat engine. Outside, you need to know how to assess a building's structural integrity before you enter it. In the wild, you need to know how to use debris and snow to insulate, not just block the wind. It's about trapping dead air. Here is the threat-specific complication: condensation. In your microclimate, your breath releases moisture. If you seal your shelter too tight with plastic or tarps, that moisture accumulates. It drips on your sleeping bag. It soaks your down jacket. Now you are wet in freezing temperatures. You need to manage ventilation, allowing just enough airflow to carry away the moisture without losing the heat. It is a delicate balance. And if you are hiding from thermal drones, you have to realize that your heat signature is glowing through that uninsulated roof. You need to mask your heat, layering thermal blankets above you to disperse the signature. Scenario 5. Food sourcing. It's month 3 of the blockade. The supermarket shelves were stripped bare in the first 48 hours. The rats have eaten the crumbs. You are scavenging a residential neighbourhood. You break into a pantry. It's mostly empty, just a weird assortment of things people didn't want. A can of pumpkin pie filling, some expired mustard, a bag of rock-hard brown sugar, and a box of dog biscuits. Your stomach has cramped so hard it feels like a knot. You are losing muscle mass. Your brain is foggy. The concept of a meal is gone. Now it is just calorie math. People die here because they lose their standards or they keep them too high. They eat the swollen can because they are starving and botulism kills them. Or they turn up their nose at the dog food until they are too weak to scavenge further. They don't understand rationing. They eat everything they find in a binge, spiking their blood sugar and then crashing, rather than stretching it out. They hunt for game they don't know how to clean, rupturing the gut and tainting the meat. They expend 2,000 calories hunting a squirrel that provides 300. It is a negative return on investment. You need to become a calorie accountant. In a scavenge situation, you are looking for density. Peanut butter, oils, fats. Canned goods are safe as long as the seal is intact and the can isn't bulging. Check the smell, check the hiss when you open it. You need to know how to cook with minimal fuel, soaking beans overnight to reduce boiling time, using a hay box cooker to insulate the pot and keep it cooking with retained heat. You need to know how to process what you find. Can you identify the 3 edible weeds growing in the cracks of the driveway? Dandelion, purslane, clover. They won't fill you up, but they provide the vitamins that prevent scurvy. The complication is the smell. Cooking food smells like life. In a starving neighbourhood, the scent of roasting meat or boiling soup travels. It will draw the desperate and the violent. You have to practice olfactory discipline. You cook at 3 a.m. You cook underground or indoors with heavy filtration. You eat cold food whenever possible. You don't throw your trash outside. Wrappers and bones are evidence. You bury them or burn them completely. If you look well-fed when everyone else is skeletal, you become a target. You have to act hungry even when you aren't. Scenario 6. Navigation. You need to leave the city. The occupying force has spoofed the GPS satellites. Your phone map shows you are in the middle of the ocean. The road signs have been torn down or spray painted over by gangs claiming territory. It is pitch black. The landmarks you know, the skyline, the stadium lights, are gone. You are in a maze of concrete and shadows. You have a vague idea that safety is north, towards the mountains. But every intersection looks the same, and stumbling into the wrong neighbourhood means conscription or execution. You need analog skills. You need a paper map and a compass. And you need to know how to use them before the lights go out. You need to understand magnetic declination. You need to know how to handrail, following a linear feature like a power line or a railroad track, but staying 50 yards off it in the brush to remain unseen. You count your paces. Every 100 meters you check. You plan your route not for speed, but for cover. You avoid the skyline. You move through the backyards, the alleys, the industrial drainage ditches. You become a ghost in the topography. The complication is that the map is a lie. The bridge marked on your paper map has been blown up. The forest route is now a burning wildfire zone. You have to adapt. You need to be able to reroute on the fly without panicking. You need to use dead reckoning, estimating your position based on speed and time. You need to recognise that the terrain has changed. Rubble piles create new hills. Flooded streets create new rivers. You are navigating a new world with an old map. Trust your compass, not your memory. Trust what you see, not what you hope. Scenario 7. Security and defence. You are holed up in a residential house. It is night. You hear the crunch of glass on the driveway. A dog barks, then is silenced with a thud. Shadows are moving across your front lawn. It isn't a military squad, it's a group of 6 desperate looters. They aren't tactical, but they are hungry and armed with crowbars and a few stolen pistols. They are checking doors. They are coming to take what you have. Your heart is hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. The sanctity of your home is gone. The mistake is the hero fantasy. You think you're going to stand at the top of the stairs and fight them off like an action star. But in reality, if you fire a shot, they will burn the house down with you inside. Or you hesitate, asking them to leave, and they rush you. Or you didn't lock the back window because you forgot. Most people rely on hope as a security strategy. They hide under the bed. But these people are turning over the mattresses. Avoidance failed. Now you have to deal with violence, and you have no plan. Security is concentric rings. The outer ring is deterrence. Blackout curtains, no noise, looking abandoned. If they think the house is empty or already looted, they move on. The next ring is delay. Reinforced doors, blocked windows, tripwires that make noise, cans on a string, to alert you before they are inside. If they get in, you need a funnel. You don't defend the whole house. You defend a safe room at the top of a fatal funnel, like a narrow staircase. You need to know how to use your weapon of choice in the dark, under stress. But mostly, you need the mindset to escalate violence instantly and overwhelmingly, then escape. You fight to break contact, not to win a medal. The complication is the Trojan horse. They don't kick in the door, they knock. A woman crying, holding a baby. She begs for water. It pulls at your humanity. But behind her, in the shadows, are 4 men with shotguns. It is the oldest trick in the book, and it works because we are social animals. You have to be hard enough to say no, or smart enough to help without opening the perimeter. You pass water through a slot. You never open the door. Security is psychological. If you can be manipulated, your locks don't matter. Scenario 8. Repair and improvisation. You are 6 months in. The initial chaos has settled into a grim grind. You are surviving because of a small gasoline generator that runs your well pump. It is the heartbeat of your camp. One morning, it coughs, sputters, and dies. The silence that follows is terrifying. You pull the cord. Nothing. You pull it again until your hands bleed. Nothing. There are no spare parts on Amazon. There is no mechanic down the street. If that generator doesn't run, you have no water. The machine doesn't care about your desperation. The consumer mind gives up. They kick the machine. They say, "It's broken," as if that is a permanent state of being. They start looking for a new one, but there are no new ones. They lack the diagnostic logic. They don't know if it's fuel, air, or spark. They try to force it and strip the bolts. They view objects as black boxes that work by magic. When the magic stops, they are helpless. This learned helplessness turns a mechanical failure into a survival crisis. You need the MacGyver mindset. You strip the carb. You clean the jets with the bristles from a toothbrush. you check the spark plug gap. If a gasket is blown, you cut a new one out of a cereal box or a piece of leather. If a hose is cracked, you tape it and clamp it with wire. You see objects not for what they are, but for what they can be. A door hinge is a bracket. A bicycle inner tube is a giant elastic band. You need to be comfortable with hand tools. You need to know that good enough is perfect if it works. You become a master of the jury rig. The complication is the sacrifice. You can't fix the generator with what you have. You have to cannibalize something else. You have to take the spark plug from the motorcycle that was your escape vehicle. You have to strip the wiring from the house walls. You are constantly making trade-offs, destroying one asset to keep a more critical one alive. It is a game of diminishing returns. You have to decide, do I need water today more than I need mobility tomorrow? The answer is usually yes, but it hurts every time you strip a screw. Scenario 9. The human element. You aren't alone. You have a group of 5. Family, neighbours. You are crammed into a basement. It's been weeks of fear, darkness and bad food. The adrenaline has worn off, replaced by cortisol and resentment. The sound of someone chewing loudly makes you want to scream. A dispute starts over who took the last shift on watch. It seems small, but eyes are wild, voices are raised. Someone accuses another of hoarding food. The group cohesion is fracturing. The danger isn't outside anymore, it's sitting across the table. The failure is letting emotions drive the bus. A leader yells back. A passive-aggressive comment turns into a fistfight. Trust evaporates. Once trust is gone, people start sleeping with one eye open. They start hiding resources from the group. Factions form, us versus them, inside a 10 by 10 room. A group that cannot resolve conflict is a group that will inevitably self-destruct or get betrayed. You don't need zombies to kill you if your brother-in-law decides you are a liability. Leadership is about emotional regulation and clear communication. You need to set the rules before the crisis. Fair rationing, clear rotations for dirty work. When conflict rises, you de-escalate, you listen, you validate the fear behind the anger. You give people purpose. A busy mind doesn't have time to plot mutiny. You assign roles based on competence, not ego. You hold daily briefings to kill rumours. Information is the antidote to paranoia. You have to be the calmest person in the room. If you panic, they panic. If you are solid, they have something to hold on to. The complication is the weak link. Someone in your group is breaking. They are catatonic with depression, or they are reckless, freezing up on watch or making noise. You can't just fire them. They are family, but they are endangering everyone. You have to manage the dead weight. You find a low-risk job for them, sorting beans, cleaning gear, something that makes them feel useful but keeps them away from critical systems. You have to carry them emotionally without letting them drag the boat under. It is the hardest burden you will bear. Scenario 10. The mindset. It is year 2. The initial shock is a distant memory. The adrenaline is long gone. The world is grey. The rubble is just part of the landscape. You are tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. You have lost people. You are hungry, cold, and dirty. You look at the horizon and you know, the cavalry isn't coming. The government isn't rebuilding. This is it. This is the rest of your life. The pistol on the table looks inviting. Why struggle for another day of misery? This is where the strong bodies die because they have weak spirits. They give up. They stop washing. They stop maintaining their gear. They take unnecessary risks because they don't care anymore. It is a slow suicide. They look at the past and mourn it until it consumes them. They cannot accept the new reality. Rigidity kills. The refusal to adapt to a harder, smaller life breaks them. Survival is 10% gear and 90% psychology. You need a growth mindset in hell. You focus on the immediate task. Can I make it to dinner? Can I fix this one thing? You find joy in the absurd. You celebrate small victories, a blooming flower, a found can of peaches. You maintain rituals. You shave, you pray, you write in a journal. You keep your humanity by force of will. You redefine success. Success isn't going back to normal. Success is, I am still here and I am still capable. You have to be unbreakable. The complication is hope. False hope destroys you. Maybe they will fix the grid next month. No, assume they won't. But meaning saves you. You need something to live for. Not just survival, but a future. Maybe it's protecting a child. Maybe it's preserving a library of books. Maybe it's just pure spite against the universe. You need a core purpose that is fireproof. Without it, you are just a breathing corpse waiting to fall down. We have run the simulation. 10 scenarios, 10 failures, 10 solutions. You see now that survival isn't about one magic trick, it's a stack. Your situational awareness buys you time to use your navigation skills. Your navigation gets you to a place where you need shelter skills. Your shelter keeps you warm enough to use your repair skills. And your mindset keeps you doing it all, day after terrible day. If you are missing one piece of the stack, the whole tower falls. You can be the best shooter in the world, but if you drink bad water, you die in a puddle of your own filth. The world is fragile. We hang by a thread of electricity and supply chains. That thread is fraying. You can feel it. Most people are sleepwalking toward the edge. You are awake. You have the blueprint now. But a blueprint isn't a house. You have to build it. You have to train these skills until they are boring, until they are instinct. Because when the sky actually goes dark, you won't rise to the occasion. You will sink to the level of your training. If you want to know exactly how to build that first critical layer of defense, the gear that actually supports these skills, you need to be here for the next briefing. Until then, stay dangerous.